The smart element of a smartphone has never been more relevant in my mind than it is today. Choosing a phone is no longer as simple as it once was. The choice is most certainly yours. LG are keen for your next phone to be the G3. Since launching the G2 last year, they have worked tirelessly crafting hardware and software to create a great smartphone. Sticking with the trend of bigger and better, the G3 sports a new, larger 5.5-inch Quad HD display and 3000 mAh user removable battery. Important as the above are, equally so is the quad-core processor, microSD memory card slot, wireless charging, rear-mounted buttons and 13-megapixel laser focus camera. The G3 now houses a 5.5-inch panel in a form factor that is virtually no bigger than the Sony Xperia Z2 with a 5.2-inch display. How is this possible? The answer is screen bezels and floating arc design. There is virtually no bezel on the G3 and the sweeping curvature of the rear fits considerably more comfortably in the hand. The design scheme was first introduced on the G2 and for many takes a little more time to get used to, but it does work, especially when you consider the knock-on feature the G3 has. From the G2, the buttons on the G3 have become a little less obvious, which isn't a bad thing, and the notification light that surrounded the button has now moved to the front. Whilst of plastic construction, the removable back cover does have a definite metal texture to it. Naturally, it does not feel as solid as the HTC One M8, but the feeling of quality is almost comparable and certainly better than the S5 from Samsung. From almost every angle, the G3 looks like the product of endless hours of craftsmanship and feels in the hand like a level of care and attention has been paid to the comfort and sensual appeal. 538 pixels per inch make up the Quad HD display that is built into the G3. With a resolution of 1440 by 2560, the screen is quite simply remarkable. Over 100 pixels per inch more than the 1080p displays found on the G3's closest rivals. Compare this to the real-world printed material and QHD would be like viewing images in the finest art book, whilst the more common and desired Full HD would be like the pages of a magazine. Included on the review device were a series of images and video that just brought the whole thing to life and made you want to delve in. The bezels on the G3 are just 3.05mm on either side of the screen. Samsung's S5 has 4.05mm. The G3 boasts an active viewing area of 76.4% as opposed to the 69.6% of the Samsung. That is nearly 7% difference. The backlight on the G3 is also incredibly bright. This explains how it can be used as a flash for the front camera. In fact, I found it nearly impossible to use it on full brightness. It is probably advisable not to use it at this level either, and it would appear that LG have unwittingly put a safety measure on the G3, because 9 times out of 10, when I tried to increase it to 100%, I could not, because the phone's temperature was too hot. When it cooled slightly, it could be increased. With a zero-gap display, the results are supposed to be better viewing angles. Disappointingly, I felt that the viewing angles on the G3 were not all that great. The biggest issue here may be for the gamers who tilt the device every which way as part of the immersive gaming experience. Look at the phone head-on and the colours really pop. Tilt it left or right, up and down, and the vibrancy was quickly lost. Add to this the reasonably reflective surface to the screen and this could be a bit of an issue. The G3 has the industry-leading and recognised Corning Gorilla Glass on it to resist scratches and impacts and help ensure the screen remains intact and functional during the G3's life. If you had to find fault with the G3's connectivity options, it would be that Video Out uses SlimPort. Whilst perfectly acceptable, it has not been adopted at the same speed as the MHL standard. Bluetooth 4, Wi-Fi 802.11a, B, G, N, AC, DLNA, Miracast, USB hosting and 4G mobile internet connectivity are all present. The G3 uses a micro SIM card, not nano like some of the other new phones, and offers GSM, 3G and 4G connectivity. When purchased SIM-free from Clove, the handset comes from the factory unlocked and capable of being used on almost all networks globally. Just pop your SIM in, it's that simple. The G3 appeared to pick up signal better in areas than I previously struggled to get connections so well on other handsets. The M8 from HTC is the benchmark to beat with mobile audio, but the G3 does not get close enough to take its crown. The G3 has a solitary rear-mounted speaker. From the G2, the speaker has been improved to 1 watt from 0.7 watts, which in LG's words improves highs and clearer sounds and strengthened the middle. At full volume, the decibel meter was reading in excess of 100 when right next to it, but around the mid-80s when about 2 foot away, which is very respectable. The positioning of the speaker also makes it difficult to accidentally or even intentionally muffle the sound. You would have to try quite hard to do this. Whilst loud, clear and generally pleasing audio experience, I did feel that the audio lacked some warmth and depth in the mid-tones, something both the HTC One and Z2 offers. This was not really a problem when you used a set of headphones. For those who still like to use or tune into the radio, the G3 has an FM radio. I should not forget to mention that I found the audio on a call quite satisfying. An appeal of any modern smartphone is the camera, and the G3 does not let you down here. The G3 does sport laser autofocus. It sounds really fancy, but the long and the short of it is that it makes the reading of the scene and the image capture quicker and in theory better than the more traditional autofocus methods. Capture of images was pretty quick. The simple tap on the screen made it easier and offered more accuracy than the on-screen camera shutter button. Use the quick launch camera button on the back and images can be captured within seconds of removal from the pocket. Pleasing for sure were the final images. Colours were vivid, helped by HDR, with a good balance and little in the way that I noticed of over or underexposure. I had most experience of this whilst video recording. Sure, it will happen on occasions, but the results were good. Some may think that the colours were a little oversaturated. I think that they were on the borderline, but not as saturated as some other image results on other devices. The camera has 9 points of focus and 8 times digital zoom. To use the zoom, you have to pinch and zoom on the screen, which is a shame. There's no option I could see to do it any other way. LG have reduced the options in the camera for a cleaner UI. Less shooting modes simplifies the whole process. Magic Focus is a new feature that lets the user change the area of focus after the photo is taken. It creates a background defocus, which is very much the rage at the moment. It works, but I'm not sold on it. It looks less artificial than HTC's solution, but does not provide the same range and control as HTC. There is also the inclusion of dual recording. There aren't many occasions where I wish to use it personally, but it's nice to have for sure, and I can see the appeal. There are different options in the frames and positioning, and it works in both camera and video recording mode. There is a two-tone LED flash to produce more realistic light. The two LEDs are cool white at 6000K and warm white at 2600K. The G3 has optical image stabilization plus, which gives a 20% improvement in stabilization over the G2. The camera takes some great video. The video recording options include Ultra HD or 4K, as well as 1080p HD and more. UHD or 4K is limited to 5 minutes and eats battery and memory, but this is to be expected. A nice touch present on many cameras now is that you can record video, pause it and then begin capture again, so that you have one clip made up of various scenes rather than multiple clips. I'm not sure if it was just the unit I had or whether I was panning too quickly, but there was a bit of a jitteriness, as if the image was trying to focus or stabilize, meaning not quite such a smooth viewing experience. There is an option for slow motion HD footage at 120 frames per second. Whilst a nice feature, I would say that the slow motion option was the weakest part of the camera. Naturally, the increased frame rate has an effect, but the quality suffered, and the Sony Z2 offers better control options in my mind for speeding up and slowing down footage after capture. A software update may improve this. The front-facing camera has a new larger sensor, an f2.0 aperture, as well as an improved viewing angle of 77 degrees. The screen can also be used as a flash for the front camera and is as bright as the two rear-mounted LED flashes. The front-facing camera shots were good, and whilst I'm not into the selfie craze, an innovative feature which works and I see the point of. Point the camera at yourself, expose the palm of your hand to the camera and it is detected. A little blue box appears. Clench your fist, release, and a 3-second timer begins. 3 seconds later, the perfect selfie has been captured. Even after the images are captured, there are lots of editing features that add value to the whole experience. Customize your image, put it in a collage and share it with the web. The G3 does lack the manual controls Sony, HTC and Samsung all offer considerably more. However, I suspect the vast majority of us just point and shoot, so less settings makes for easier control. Good hardware should be matched by great software, and I think LG have done a pretty decent job here. LG have put a lot of work into making the graphic user interface smarter, cleaner and more refined with the use of mature colours and flatter icons. Memory usage has been reduced by 30% by combining apps. There's also up to another 30% to be saved by removing apps that come pre-installed. Out of the box you therefore get about 10.5 GB, which is available to you. LG have done away with some of the features seen on the G2. These include plug and pop, tracking zoom, zoom to track, audio zooming, home screen orientation, smart video. There is really so much scope to this device in what you can do with it and what it offers. Even after a few days of testing, I was discovering something I missed. Whilst I cannot possibly cover all the software features, there are a lot. Some of the main ones are Not Code, an innovative way of securing the device. The display is split into 4 quarters in which a series of 2 to 8 taps are recorded in one or more of the quarters. When the screen is off and secured with a Not Code, you then make the relevant taps in the same formation as it was recorded, but there is no need to use the full screen to input this code. Guest Mode essentially creates another user account that anyone can access without getting into your content. You control what the guest has access to, ideal for when handing the phone to the children to play with. Q-Slide allows you to have a window open on top of what you're doing in the background. For example, you could have the video player open in the bottom corner of the screen whilst browsing a web page. Capture Plus. More appropriate for the mobile office worker, Capture Plus allows you to take an image of the whole web page rather than the portion that may be displayed on screen. It can be cropped accordingly. It works only in the default browser, not Chrome. Quick Memo. Think of it as a digitized scrap of paper for jotting down quick reminders and more. It can even capture what is on screen so you can annotate. Quick Remote. Simple to use and set up and better than Samsung's equivalent. Set up my lounge TV and Skybox within 90 seconds. Smart Cleaning. Lets you know about unused app or contents that you could remove to save memory. I did not have the review unit long enough to see the long-term benefits of this. Multi-window, a long press on the back key and you can select 2 apps to be open at the same time. Resize each app window and use both in portrait and landscape mode. Great for multitasking, I liked this a lot. SMS scheduling, so handy for preparing messages to be automatically sent at a later date. Quiet or do not disturb mode. Automatically rejects calls other than those from selected individuals during certain times. Smart Keyboard, resize and configure certain keys to work better for you, for less errors. Smart Notification, makes suggestions and predictions for you based on what is going on. Examples include reminding you to call back that call you missed earlier and to let you know about the weather, as well as normal calendar reminders. Quite useful, but some things are a bit obvious. LG Health. A nice tool to assist you in tracking your steps and general health. Activity monitoring includes steps, calories and distance tracker. It's not ready for those dedicated to fitness in my opinion, but has real potential. Clear layout with a nice balance of information. Of course, we cannot forget at the heart of the G3 is an Android 4.4 powered handset with all the normal Google services. Therefore, Maps, Music, Chrome and Play Store are all there for you to use and download your favourite apps. As you would expect from a flagship device, the performance was pretty faultless. I did get the occasional lag, maybe 1 in 20 times with either launching or coming out of the camera. It could have been down to the number of apps that I had running. I'm sure this will be ironed out come launch or shortly after with a software update. Whilst not strictly performance related, the G3 does get a touch warm. Not hot or too warm to handle, but on the back around the buttons you can feel the phone is obviously working hard. I've been putting the G3 through its paces during the time I've had with it, and I cannot say it has really undergone what is normal usage by myself, so the battery has been challenged more than it would normally. With that said, the usage was looking good for a normal working day for the most part. I would have quite happily gone out for a day and not worried about the battery. Switch on the battery saver mode and the picture gets even better. Whilst the G3 bleeps and asks you to charge it up, it continues to perform reasonably well and certainly extends the life. Of course, the fact that it is removable is a help too, so a spare, charged up could be a solution for the really power hungry. Realistically, the G3 is up against any other smartphone on the market in terms of competition. Of course, the aforementioned devices are closest in terms of competition, and the fight really comes down to the minor details. Yes, there are a few hardware differences like IP rating and whether you want a fixed or removable battery, so where the G3 has a winning feature, the others beat it somewhere else. Whether it is the best is not really for me to decide. What I can say is that the G3 certainly has what it takes to compete with the best. In terms of price, if we could get all this for £200, we would all have one, but sadly the price is $499 all in at the time of recording. In my book, being less than £500 is a bonus. Psychologically breaking that barrier seems hard to swallow, albeit over a 24-month period the phone would cost just £25 a month if it cost £600. When bought SIM-free from Clove, it is still cheaper than the main competing devices that include the Sony Xperia Z2, HTC One M8 and the Samsung Galaxy S5. When pitching it next to the proven devices, I think the G3 has more than enough to be classed on a level playing field. After several long days testing as many features on the G3, I'm pleased to say that much like the G2, the G3 has left me with a very positive view of it, and one that for me personally has teased me into moving back to a larger screen device. The way that LG has squeezed such a large and immensely vivid display into a form factor no bigger than Sony's Z2, which has just a 5.2-inch display, is simply incredible. It feels like every millimetre of the chassis has been used to best effect. For those already sold and committed to more pixels, then the G3 will be a device that you cannot help to feel wowed by. There are so many elements that make this device strong, most notably what it gives back to you and I as the user. It gives control, scope and options in a way that is not overly complicated. The attention to detail and focus on giving the user what they want makes the G3 stand out aside from its strong list of specifications. It has tough competition, but it has what it takes to compete. LG have been proving for some time now that they're a force to be reckoned with. The G3 is their big gun, and I'm sure it will make the desired impact.